So yes, we are back with that JJK heat. Time to go over the actually, I can't even believe it, 12th arc in Kenjaku's beast of a series that is Jujutsu Kaisen. Of course, if you are new around here and want to watch more long-form explain content just like this, then remember to hit that subscribe button and also be sure to leave a like on the video, as it really does help out with pushing my content to a bunch of new amazing people. Anyways, enough of me rambling on as per usual, let's get into the one and only Sakurajima colony from Jujutsu Kaisen's culling game. So, remember how right at the end of the last JJK arc we found the monster herself Maki in the Sakurajima colony? Well, after dispatching the toughest curse spirits and players, she runs into Noritoshi Kamo, who's undergone a clean ass looking transformation. Man literally had to switch up his entire look after realizing he's named after the worst sorcerer in their family's history. But anyways, they both acknowledge the change in each other's look, with Noritoshi confessing that he's lost his position as the Kamo family's heir and has fallen from grace, while Maki has become formidable. Noritoshi asks Maki to meet with Yu once she leaves the colony, as remember, because of her recent transformation, she can freely travel between colonies. But suddenly, their plans are interrupted by the sudden appearance of a formidable curse spirit. As it enters, shooting in through the barrier, it disregards Kogane's request to become a new player, telling it to shut up. Anyway, skipping away from the action as per usual, and going into a moment that happened a few days prior, we find a hurried Noritoshi Kamo running through the house searching for people until he comes face to face with a senile Shino. By the way, has anyone noticed the dramatic change in Kenjaku's art style from the beginning of the series till now? I feel like the culling game especially has changed into this darker arc where his art especially is a lot more scratchy and has this more of a horror style feel to it. But anyways, continuing on. The senile old dog asks how Kamo got in, claiming that ever since the guard was taken over, it's been completely useless. Noritoshi tells the old fart though that he doesn't have any time for jokes, but Shino eerily asks him if he's forgotten who's actually the next head of the family. As he then continues spouting more bizarre nonsense, a worried Noritoshi presses on and enters the house. Inside, he is greeted by the body-swapping creep himself, Kenjaku, who's literally just chilling out and relaxing as he was waiting for Noritoshi to arrive. Kenjaku greets Noritoshi with a smile and offers to fill him in on his plans. He explains how he used Jujutsu terrorism, the sealing of Satoru Gojo, and the killing game to eliminate all the uncorrupted members of the Jujutsu Society. He knew that because Gakuganji is considered trustworthy and had influence with the said higher-ups, Noritoshi would have wanted to plead with him in an attempt to retract those notices from the headquarters. Talking about the notices that was handed out earlier, the sealing of Satoru Gojo and the killing of Yuji Itadori. Anyway, so he took care of everyone who wasn't on his side, like Gojo, Gakuganji, Masamichi, and others that we probably never even met to start with. By the way, the actual text that goes over this is much more confusing, where they explain pretty much how Kenjaku managed to take over the conservative faction of the Jujutsu world. Anyways, sitting there, Kenjaku's left impressed as Noritoshi's only a mere student, but can already see the bigger picture and acts how he needs to. Utterly let down himself, Noritoshi asks Kenjaku if he's already removed the people responsible for initiating Suguru Geto's execution, to which it's confirmed, along with a person who named Yuta as Yuji's executioner. Chuckling at Noritoshi's efforts to approach Gakuganji and fix everything, Kenjaku confidently exclaims that the Kamo clan was the conservative seat, but now it all utterly belongs to him, along with the title of the 25th Kamo family head. Feeling challenged, Noritoshi sparks up in preparation to battle, but Kenjaku quickly waves to dismiss him. Man literally laughs at him as nah bro, just chill out for one sec. Confused, Noritoshi asks what the hell he's on, but Kenjaku just tells him that it's fine, because even if he is alive, nothing is going to change. Plus, he doesn't want to mess up the new house. He tells him instead to get lost, allowing Noritoshi to eventually make his way to where we find him at the very beginning of this arc. Back in Sakurajima, Noritoshi and Maki are left on high alert as they both spot a supposed curse spirit chilling above them in the sky. Looking at it, Maki just has this weird and uncanny feeling. Instantly, approaching them at lightning speed, the curse spirit rampages towards Maki, tearing up and utterly obliterating everything in its path. It connects with a blocking Maki, sending her crashing back and allowing the disgusting amalgamation of a curse spirit to pin her against a cliff. Not having seen this happen, Noritoshi watches as Maki struggles to break free. She attempts to hit it, but the curse spirit's speed is too much for her to handle as it dodges out of the way of the attack and sends her shooting into a nearby cliff face, completely deforming it. Despite being at a disadvantage, Maki refuses to give up, sensing something weird about this curse spirit. With determination in her eyes, she quickly dodges out of the way of the monster's thundering right hook. However, the curse manages to flick its snaky behind around, destroying a few trees in its wake and trapping the sorcerer up against the cliff. Emerging from the head of the curse spirit, no one other than the misogynistic goon himself, Naoya Zenin, now reincarnated as a terrifyingly strong curse spirit, reveals himself. Pinned up against the wall and unable to move, Maki is just left stunned, asking if it's actually him, with her older cousin replying that he's finally arrived at the other side. Of course, if any of you are confused on how this man managed to actually come back, Maki thought she took her brother out with her fists, yet as we all know and she isn't privy to, Noah was actually murked by Maki's mother wielding a plain steak knife, so he also wasn't killed by Jujutsu with her, and it resulted in him coming back as a special great curse spirit. But I don't even know why I write these scripts without reading the next chapter sometimes, literally right as we jump out of the battle into a flashback that takes place, this time between Noritoshi and Gakuganji, where they talk about Itadori's recent death. Sitting there, Gakuganji asks what to keep in mind while killing the sorcerer, to which Kamo, like I just mentioned, responds that they must be eliminated using Jujutsu. The story then shoots back over to Sakurajima, where Naoya still has Maki pinned up against the wall, his face continuing to push even further out of the curse's shell. Quickly, Maki comes to the realization that because she doesn't have curse energy, she failed to finish Naoya off in their previous fight. However, Naoya denies it, telling Maki that she simply doesn't understand, and instead claims that it was her mother who finished him off. While Maki's left shocked with this news, Naoya takes full advantage of the situation and declares that he's returned to completely end her. Luckily for our queen though, Big Noritoshi blasts off a shot from his curse tool, allowing Maki to escape the grasp of the curse spirit. Darting away, she thanks him, but also asks if he only used intuition to aim, as obviously, he can't sense her. Nearby in the woods, Noritoshi, who's getting ready for another shot, is easily able to deduce Naoya's location through the curse's presence. However, he notes that deducing Maki's location is a bit more difficult, which is obviously because the only energy actually coming off her is a Jujutsu emanating from the sword that she wields, and I'm pretty sure that doesn't actually happen in the first place. That's just headcanon of mine right there anyway. Continuing. Finally shooting off his 3 arrows technique, Noritoshi is able to expertly navigate all his arrows around the trees and other obstacles on their way towards the Curse Naoya. Spotting the arrows bursting through the trees behind him, the Curse Spirit mocks the arrows and their pathetic speed. Taking the monster by surprise though, Maki grabs a hold of him, then using the momentum from his massive size, sends him flying directly into the path of the arrows, which penetrate deeply into his body. As Naoya screams in pain, Maki immediately pulls up and slices him in half with her curse tool. From a distance, Noritoshi watches as Maki falls onto the buildings below her while wondering to himself if she actually managed to exorcise Naoya. To their shock though, our high schooler duo are left helpless, only able to watch as Naoya's curse spirit explodes before collapsing in on itself like some kind of cursed energy dark hole. Seeing this in the sky above her, Maki immediately begins to recognize what's actually happening. As it fully begins to form into a ball of energy, she screams out to Noritoshi, telling him to shoot at it as she knows it's a cursed worm that's currently evolving. To prevent disaster and just looking hella clean by the way as well, I'm loving the new drip on Noritoshi, he immediately throws up and destroys a blood bag, then uses his curse technique, piercing blood, to stop Naoya from completing his transformation. The beam of blood pierces directly through Naoya's cursed womb, causing a massive flood of blood to begin pouring out the other side. Thinking that he could have possibly exorcised the cursed womb, Noritoshi watches as the burning ball begins falling to the ground below. Yet, as he begins to ponder how insanely fast it could have been if it survived, it's revealed that Naoya did indeed dodge the attack and has evolved into a much more terrifying form. Maki screams for him to dodge, but before Naoya even has time to react, he's hit with a devastating blow that sends him rocketing back through the forest around them. Turning around and calling Noritoshi utter trash, we see the grotesque and harrowing sight of Naoya's full transformation into a foul, repulsive curse spirit. Noticing that he managed to defend himself from the attack, Naoya states that Noritoshi is indeed a clan head after all. As Kamo sits there recovering from the blow, it's explained that if he hadn't used his blood to block the previous blow, he would have died. Getting back to his feet, and with a revived look of determination on his face, he activates his flowing red scale ability to attack the quickly approaching curse. Seeing the curse heading Noritoshi's way, Maki rushes over and manages to jump in front before diving straight towards the curse and cutting him open with her blade. Watching this happen in front of him, the juiced up Noritoshi activates his Crimson Binding technique, restraining the curse spirit and allowing Maki to strike at him once more. Yet, just as her swing is about to land, Naoya spun at a high velocity to deflect her strike, completely catching Maki by surprise. The combined efforts prove to be utterly ineffective against Naoya, who still retains his ego from his previous life. Getting ready to re-engage, Maki states that Naoya can still use his curse technique, which explains why he's been so monstrously fast. In retaliation, Naoya unleashes his prolific projection sorcery, sending out a bunch of frames in Maki's direction, which frees anything that he touches, which, also in this regard, is literally the air between the two. As he instantly touches the set of frames, it creates a devastating explosion that Maki and Noritoshi barely dodge. Undeterred by this, Naoya takes off at a speed faster than sound, confusing Noritoshi, who wonders if he's fleeing, but Maki corrects him, stating that he's actually just speeding up. As the cursed Zenin is off boosting around, the duo discuss what they're going to do now, to which Maki says that if he's going to approach them at the speed of sound, then they can lie in wait and deliver a killing blow. Sensing the curse's direction change towards them, Maki bravely steps forward to face Naoya head on, telling her companion to stay back as Noritoshi also activates his technique around her in an attempt to add some protection. With the curse spirit destroying every shard of glass in the building as it builds up its speed, it's explained to us that this misogynistic demon of a curse brings air in through the inlets on its back and compresses it along with the curse energy to then inject it out its back for even more speed. With its max speed of freaking Mark 3 achieved, Naoya strikes with such a devastating force that it leaves Maki almost completely unconscious and badly injured. Standing above her now, Naoya mocks Maki, disgusted with himself to ever think that he could have possibly lost to her. Naoya states there are things that children can never do, that adults easily overcome. After you grow up, you don't even remember the times where you constantly failed. Laughing at the stupidity of this though, Maki mockingly asks him when he was ever actually an adult, to which Naoya evilly tells her that maybe she should ask her dead sister. Fuming with anger over how his sister was disrespected, Maki swiftly stands back up and in perfect coordination with her, Noritoshi unleashes 2 more arrows into the malevolent entity. Darting in behind, Noritoshi then employs his own blood-bending technique, slicing into the curse and landing a devastating blow, leaving Naoya stunned with the amount of blood being expended by the sorcerer. Coming to though, he makes the connection that Noritoshi could possibly be circulating the blood outside of his body and then bringing it back in continuously, that way he won't die of blood loss. Knowing that only Maki can defeat him though, Noritoshi tells his companion that he'll hold off Naoya while she makes a run for it, but Maki refuses, just asking for 5 minutes. Noritoshi argues though that she's probably suffered internal damage and just a brief break won't be enough, yet still Maki denies it and tells him that she isn't bluffing and really does just need 5 minutes to fully heal her injuries. I don't know how she's actually healing herself. I'm assuming that she's probably running over to one of the healers from Jujutsu High and getting healed there, but that's just a thought of mine. Either way, hearing this, he tells her that he won't make any promises, as honestly, it doesn't really matter whether he lives or dies. Reigniting the battle, Naoya blasts towards the duo, but Noritoshi uses another technique to form a blood fence before diving out of the way as Naoya effortlessly bursts through it. Noticing that Maki's vanished, and because of the fact that she's like toji, he can't sense her, Naoya asks where she's gone. Noritoshi in this moment analyzes the situation and realizes that although Naoya's cursed body is incredibly fast, it's not durable. He also observes that Naoya has a binding valve that requires him to curl up at high speeds to avoid tearing, thus increasing his toughness, but due to that binding valve itself, when not moving at high speeds, he's extremely vulnerable. All of a sudden, striking faster than the speed of sound, Noritoshi is completely taken off guard and blown back through a bunch of defenseless trees by Naoya's blow. Immediately following up, the misogynistic demon speeds up and rams straight into the vulnerable sorcerer, causing him to start spewing up blood. With Noritoshi falling towards the ground below, Naoya gives chase and jokes that blowing blood into his inlet was a dirty move. However, Noritoshi refuses to give up and claps his hands together before delivering a powerful blood beam straight to Naoya's head. Despite his efforts though, Naoya remains completely unfazed and declares that the battle is over, causing Noritoshi to fall into a childhood flashback. So big man himself is having his life flash before his eyes right now. He believes that honestly he's failed, he was never able to create a safe place for him and his broken family. Then coming back to reality, he now sees the malevolent figure that is Naoya leaning over him. Again, Noritoshi is hit by the shell of Naoya's curse, sending him shooting back a few feet, but this time the sorcerer quickly regains his footing. Thinking to himself and knowing that no one in his personal life needs him anymore, Noritoshi attempts to retaliate with a straight punch while proudly stating that now it's time to completely burn away his life, then one day in the future his comrades can do the same upon his fallen ashes. And I'll say, GK man, you gotta chill out, you turned into a bit of a poet with some of these lines right here. Just then, as Naoya is about to step forth and end Noritoshi's life, 2 brand new random ass players screaming sumo and katana arrive to join the fight. So that random man screaming for a katana is actually an old schooler who goes by the name of Daido Hagane. Like the sumo dude, he was summoned into the current time period, but right in the middle of the Kagoshima Sakurajima colony. He searched far and wide, night and day, looking for a beloved katana, until one day, while searching through in an abandoned child's room, he finds a Kimetsu no Yaiba, first form, water surface slash sword hidden away in a box. On the other hand, and also on like the 2nd of November, the other random culling game player, Mio, who was just summoned, walked around and challenged everyone that he came across for sumo. He challenged every man, woman, and even a damn dog, but no one accepted his challenges. In the end, as he walked around brokenhearted, he heard the phrase Nakota and immediately smashed a granny's door down to see a game of sumo taking place on her television. Finally happy with finding that good stuff, he asks for the location and was told that the fight is happening in Ryogoku, Tokyo. I actually love how smooth brain looking this dude is. Peak Gege meme character right here. But anyway. Man's like, Ryogoku, Tokyo, the capital of the East. But, man is the biggest smooth brain dude about and went the wrong direction. He actually went right and eventually strolled into the Sakurajima colony, becoming a culling game player. With Noritoshi initially taken off guard by new people showing up, Naoya takes advantage of the situation by sending some tentacles his way. Yet our girl quickly shows back up and cuts off the attacking arm. Seeing the weapon that Maki wields, Dido screams for her katana and runs in her direction, beginning to scream and cry for her sword. Knowing that the battle is in a bit of a stalemate right now, Maki throws her katana in the direction of the old man in the hope that an external piece to this fight would alter its outcome. Instantly, as the old geezer's fingers touch the hilt of Maki's katana and grab a hold, all 4 players feel an overwhelming presence of power emanate from him. It was not cursed energy, but an overwhelming presence of sheer lethality, like a brutal master of death standing before them. It's said that this Dido is the reincarnation of a nameless, unmatched swordsman who fights only with his swordsmanship and not with cursed energy. So he probably does have curse energy, but doesn't know what it is or doesn't use it for that purpose. Anyway. Slicing at the curse, Naoya is just barely able to dodge out of the way of Dido's attack. Randomly though, the ancient samurai gets annoyed at the katana not actually listening to him and begins yelling at it, asking if it was trying to shame him. Like Maki, Dido also has no curse energy and cannot see the curses, so because of that, he asks if there's some kind of Ayakashi in front of him. Confused, as Maki assumed that he could see it, she asks if he can't. He explains that if you can see everything else besides the cursed spirit, then it isn't technically the same as seeing it. Once finishing his sentence, he brings the blade down, connecting directly with Naoya and slicing him in half, taking him completely by surprise. Blown away with what she just witnessed, Maki tries to understand how she couldn't land any lethal attacks on Naoya, but Dido easily could under the same conditions. She ponders what it is that she isn't seeing, and what if there's still some kind of difference between her and Toji. In the end, Maki senses a simple domain appear behind her. Turning around, she sees Mio and is challenged with a sumo bout. Maki decides to enter his simple domain and notes it only functions when he wants to do sumo. It's an extremely simple barrier focused on only one thing. So you know how we was rolling around previous to this asking people for sumo matches? Well, it's actually because during his pre-sumo bout, both the challenger and opponent must agree to a match to complete his domain. Due to this, Mio asks Maki for a bout, or if she's like everyone else and is going to refuse to do sumo. To Norotoshi's annoyance though, Maki nonchalantly ends up agreeing to take part in the bout. With a massive open grin appearing on his face, Mio finally achieves bliss and his domain begins surrounding them both. Confused as to why Maki's entering, Noritoshi asks what she was thinking, but Maki actually responds that she was in fact overthinking and just needed to blow off some steam. With the domain fully covering the duo now, Maki enters the ring, and as she gets into her pose, begins to wonder what the hell it is she isn't seeing. Thinking more, she starts to ponder the true question that everyone has been thinking since the introduction of Toji. What is she? Sensing the approaching attack, Mio easily manages to dart behind Maki before she can grab him, and as she turns to counter, instantly ducks under her left grab. Then quickly springing back up, he manages to lock his arm perfectly around hers, then uses Maki's previous momentum to throw her over to the edge of the ring, winning the first bout. Standing above her victorious, Mio asks Maki if she's got another round in her, as the moment that he laid eyes on her, he knew that she was much more powerful. Doing like the ballsiest crouch ever in front of our queen, he asks what's up and to tell him what's wrong. Why can't she focus? It's explained that Maki never relied on anyone to become stronger. Despite having teachers at Jujutsu High, she always believed in doing everything on her own and being self-reliant, and that's why she just doesn't know what to say to him here. Our smooth-brained Mio though sensed that she was still thinking about what Dido had said earlier, given her silence all this time. Cutting off her chain of thoughts, he asks her to stand up and have another sumo match, as that's the only way he knows how to explain things. As they continue a number of countless matches, Mio begins explaining to her that she has become entangled in it all, and because of that, she's limited her own progression too much. She needs to instead let herself loose and experience what it's like to finally be free while fighting her opponents. Then, everything before her eyes, like the idea of victory and the possibility of defeat, will become meaningless, or in other words, exactly what the samurai was talking about. Freedom. Thanks to the wise words of the ancient sumo goat Mio and the multitude of sumo matches, Maki finally knows what to do next, and all she has to do is experience it for herself. With the two beginning another bout of sumo, it skips forth and soon comes to an end as she finishes her match with Mio. Stepping out now, Maki leaves all of the others shocked as we see our queen smiling for the first time in over a decade, finally ready to be free. Having exited the domain, it's explained that the exchanges Maki had with Mio hadn't even taken 1 minute. Kind of like in Dragon Ball Z with a hyperbolic time chamber, time moves slower in Mio's domain, and the time it takes for 1,000 sumo belts is less than 1 minute. Fed up with all of it though, Naoya boosts off into the sky like last time and begins raising his speed. Looking over to the randoms, Narutoshi notices them cooperating and asks who they are. But to his surprise, they explain that it doesn't matter who they are, others can think what they want. All they care about is the need to hold a katana and cut what needs to be cut, or they want to get back in the ring to wrestle with Maki some more. Back in the battle, as Naoya boosts around destroying the city, he becomes annoyed at the fact that he should be overwhelming her with speed, yet for some reason, he can't even touch her. Sprinting across a roof now, Maki sees Naoya shoot up and boost off in front of her, completely shattering all of the glass from all of the nearby buildings as he reaches near top speed. Somehow, I don't know how she's got this much gas now all of a sudden, making it over and in front of Naoya's trajectory. Maki drops down and begins to feel everything around her. In the past, she couldn't see without glasses, but once she gained this body, thanks to Mai, she became content as she was finally like everyone else. But Toji, he wouldn't just reach that height, he would have pushed forwards without hesitation and even been able to deflect Naoya's top speed attacks with ease. Seeing what no one else sees for the first time, Maki states that it's not enough to be like everyone else. There are things that only the chosen ones, like Toji and herself, can see. Boom! Instantly, as Naoya tears through the building directly in front of Maki, trying to hit her with his top speed once more, Maki quickly pulls herself into a ball and manages to dodge Naoya's top speed attack in midair without anything to actually move off. It's just freaking insane. A lot of the fights in the series play off like how you can catch a person off guard in the sky as they are unable to completely dodge because there's nothing to move off. The sky is like untangible. So this just goes to show how much of a beast Maki is right now. She's literally smoking on that Naoya pack for real. But anyway, moving on. Maki knows that the air around them may seem empty, but there are minute differences in the temperature and air density. All Maki needs to do is use them to her advantage. As Naoya then attempts to boost at her once again, Maki easily dodges and punches the curse down towards the ground below. Maki's also got that mega juiced up brain, as somehow she just knew that Mio was directly below her, allowing him to land a direct headbutt to the side of the curse's exoskeleton. Not done, Dido also reveals himself and slices at the curse, almost completely cutting through the entirety of Naoya and killing him. Coming in as well though, and seemingly landing in the finishing blow, Maki kicks the back of Naoya's cursed spirit, sending his top half tumbling across the street in front of her. Screaming in denial over his possible defeat, Naoya tears his hands through the shell of his curse womb, fully revealing his human shell, while saying that the only one who deserves to stand with them is himself, before activating his domain expansion. With his domain expansion, Time Cell Moon Palace active, we see a massive, malevolent eye at the center, staring directly at everyone within its sight. Instantly, Naoya activates his ability on both Mio and Dido, causing flames to erupt from their bodies, taking the Ancient Ones by surprise. However, even more to their surprise, it disappears, allowing them to begin their attack again. Though, as soon as they move, both of them drop to the ground, absolutely overpowered by Naoya's sure hit technique. For anyone as confused as these old boys are, it's actually because of the fact that anyone Naoya touches has to move like him, or they freeze for 1 second. What makes it all the more brutal is how his domain amplifies his innate technique, making it even more precise. Not only this, he can even manipulate every cell inside of his opponent's body, and when his opponent moves, every cell will become out of alignment. Which explains exactly why Mio and Dido were severely injured by just taking 1 step. With Mio collapsing to the ground, he states that it's indeed a good domain. However, Naoya only made this domain expansion for Maki, but as he tries to sense where she died, he can't find her. Slightly confused because this is like his space obviously, Naoya knows that she lacks curse energy like Toji, but thought his domain would be able to locate her. Suddenly, Daido purposefully moves his right arm in an attempt to slice Naoya, only to instantly have it decapitated by the annoyed curse spirit. You see though, in typical bottom G behaviour, Naoya thought it was pointless. However, Daido is constructed of the same material as our girl and was able to sense her location, chucking the katana in Maki's direction. From within his own shadows, Maki suddenly appears and grabs her blade before plunging it straight through her traitorous cousin's back. As we all knew, but obviously this man right here he just couldn't accept the fact, Maki and Toji have no cursed energy, so they can easily enter and exit barriers unless their barrier uses a physical object as its shell, or unless there is a specific condition placed, and because Naoya didn't do that within his domain, he cannot trap her inside of it. Going into the twins' dream world for a moment, the sisters are able to reconcile together as they both recognize that Maki finally broke free from her curse. Correspondingly, it's explained that the sword Mai left behind is the replica of the curse tool Soul Liberation Blade. That said sword, and now Maki's obviously, ignores the hardness of everything and cuts the soul directly. But to use the full potential requires having a pair of eyes that can see the soul of inanimate objects. Maki has achieved this, and in the end, as Naoya screams at her, telling her that she is lost because she can no longer move inside of his domain, it's explained to us that this domain's guaranteed hit can't recognize Maki, due to her lack of curse energy, as I've been going over so much already. And because of that, an oblivious Naoya is completely sliced in two, subsequently causing his domain to explode. With the battle seemingly coming to an end, and both Daido and Mio shocked to somehow still be alive, it's said that 12 years after the death of Toji Zenin, a demonic fighter of equal strength was finally born. Honestly, it's just so nice to see Maki having a smile on her face in each panel. Such a lovely change from the angry Maki, even though she looked gangster and was just ready to mess up anyone's day. It's nice to see her with a smile on her face for the first time, as her mission technically has completely come to an end now. She's just here to be a goated warrior in the coming battles, pretty much. Anyway, gotta move forwards, otherwise all the bottom G's out there can't take it, and I hate it when I build up amazing female characters, which is really cringe of them for some reason, but anyway. So with the aftermath of Maki and Naoya's fight, it's shown that she was fully successful in exercising him, as Kamo confirmed the win. Maki claims that the win was thanks to the randoms that had shown up, and hearing this, Noritoshi asks about their condition. Just like Kamo, Daido and Mio's conditions are also severe, but what Maki's most concerned about is how Noritoshi just nonchalantly decided to throw his life away. Noritoshi tells her though that he should know his situation. Because he's from one of the big families like her, he feels worthless as he's failed to become the head. There's also how he was named by his mother after the most evil sorcerer in history. He asks if Maki asked hers, to which she says that she did, but then she murked her. But now, after hearing what the Curse Naoya told her, she doesn't know if it was the right decision, and honestly just wished they'd talked more. Skipping away for a moment, we witness a glimpse of Kamo's past. We remembered his family and how his name actually originated. More or less, the reason as to why she named him Noritoshi was that it was the first thing that came to her mind, and she was peeved at the time. She didn't know exactly what was good for him, but just wished that he would abandon the Kamo family and safely return home to her. This little dude who, I initially thought was Kamo, is actually Kamo's half-brother. I just had no idea, and I thought this was a flashback with Kamo to start with. My brain. But anyway. He asks if Noritoshi's a nice guy, to which his mumsy says that of course he is. After all, he's my son. So, that there brings us to the very end of what is the Sakurajima colony arc right here with Maki and her story, pretty much in everything from Jujutsu Kaisen. Obviously, things are going to pick up drastically throughout the next two arcs if you know and have caught up, because, oh my god, 212 and 213 are absolutely insane, and I can't wait to see what happens after. So get hyped for that and leave a like. We'll try and push this video to 5k likes, and also leave a comment down below with what your thoughts are on Naoya's re-emergence. I know some people were hyped, and others for some reason hated this dope arc. It's just really interesting how the community was 50-50 on it. If you are new around here, then make sure you hit that subscribe button if you want to keep up to date with banger content just like this, and check out my Patreon for early access to newer videos. By the way, I love you all, and I'll see you in a bit. Bye.